maybe let's get into the Monroe Institute a bit because I know you got to be a part of a very special
Yeah,
group of people for the Gateway experience. So, yeah, if you could just explain what you got to experience and how it was for you.
sure. Yeah, my path to the Monroe Institute was really interesting because in 2009, I started experiencing spontaneous out of body experience and had no idea what was happening to me. So, for me, what would happen is when I was waking up, I would find myself in this vibratory state where my whole body is vibrating and I hear a whooshing in my ears. And again, I'm coming out of sleep. So you're coming into your normal state of awareness. And as this is happening, I become conscious of the fact that I'm in this vibratory state. And then I get scared. And as soon as the fear kicks in, it stops. So the first time this happened, I get scared, it stops, and I feel like my body falls about 3 inches back into the bed.
Gotcha.
And for me, it also only happens when I'm lying on my back, never when I'm on my side. And so again, 2009 is the first time this happens. I'm like, "Oh my god, what was that?" Right? Fall back, and I'm just like, "Oh my goodness." But it kept happening over and over again. Um, I wish I recorded, I wish I was more diligent about recording the details of this because I don't know exactly how often it happened, but it was happening several times a month to the point where I thought, "Is there something medically wrong with me?" I asked my doctor. They had nothing, the medical system had nothing to offer me when it comes to out of body experience.
Yeah. That's the
Um,
same as Robert Monroe, too, just to point out. So that's
right.
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is I feel like if I had been more diligent about looking into it, this information about Robert Monroe
Mm,
was available at that time. It's just I didn't take the initiative to look into it more deeply. So this happened, like I said, monthly several times, but then it sort of faded out over the year. And then I was like, oh, I guess that was just some phase I was going through. Uh, but then it started happening again. Coincidentally, after I read UFO of God, which was in 2023.
mm, gotcha. Okay.
So I ended up reading UFO of God, started watching Bledsoe Said So, heard about the Monroe Institute, and then in 2024,
Yeah.
it had been like 6 months since this happened previously, and I wanted it to happen because I kept telling myself the next time, I'm not gonna get scared. And I had been telling myself this for a while, but every time it happened, I would get scared. I'm like, "I'm determined." Now I know a little bit more about what's going on. So the one morning, I am in the vibratory state. I'm like, "Oh my god, it's happening." So I was like, don't get scared," because I was like feeling the tension rise. And
Yeah.
as that happened, the vibrations would slowly start to dissipate. And I was like, no, don't go away. And as I had that thought, they intensified. I'm like,
Mm,
oh my goodness, like I'm able to control this. So I was like playing with that up and down vibration. And I
that's
know
cool.
I'm in my bed, but I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then I felt like there was a presence with me that was
Mm,
behind me. And I consciously said to it, okay, show me what you want to show me. And as soon as I had that thought, it felt like I was fired out of a cannon. The like intense whooshing, the feeling of motion,
yeah.
right? Like literal feeling of being shot out of a cannon. And when I stopped, there was complete silence. The vibrations are all gone. The noise is all gone. And I'm in a park that's a couple blocks from my house. It's the park that we play at with our kids. It's very early morning, so it's still dark, but the sun is about to come up. And I am taller than my body. So I'm like at a high, I'm not above the trees, but I'm like at leaf level.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around. And what's fascinating is I can see everything in super detail. It's like
Mm,
my vision is way better. I can look across the road. And again, I'm in this park regularly, so I know the area, I know the houses, but I can look across the street and I can see the detail of the brick. I was looking at one of the windowsills and I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it felt so peaceful. It felt like I was in this embrace of love. And then again, I feel this presence behind me and I'm feeling this peace and thankfulness. Like, thank you for, I don't even know what I'm doing here, right? This is so
right. Yeah.
strange, but the feeling of it is so good. But then in front of my face, these lines of text, like, I'm like a book,
Mm,
start going in front of my face, but just the words, but they're not words. They're like symbols and like beautiful cursive writing. And this is something that is really difficult to put into words because I've never seen anything like it and I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like the language was musical, but I
mm,
couldn't hear
gotcha.
anything. It was like there was light to it, but like this light language. But what I thought was, I'm being shown this because I know my mind cannot invent this. Like, this is beyond my
Mm,
wildest
yeah.
comprehension. So I'm like, thank you. Thank you for showing me this, whatever it is. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But after a while, I'm like looking at the writing and then looking back to the houses and back at the writing, and it's still coming down. And I'm like, in that moment, I was saying to myself, remember this. This is
Mhm.
a real experience. This, I know I'm not dreaming this. It was hyper real, like more real than real. And then I said to the presence, whatever was behind me, I don't know if I can get anything more out of this. Like, I don't know what to do now.
Mm,
And when I had that thought, I just woke up in the
right,
bed,
right.
or I was back in my bed. And dude, I just sat there for a while because what do? Right? I was giddy, like laughing, like, oh my God, I did it. I overcame the fear. And then the overcoming of the fear gave me this experience, whatever it was. But the thing, to get back to the Monroe Institute, which is where we were going, this,
Well, real quick
yeah.
before, when you got shot out of the cannon, which was it, like, feet forwards? Was there a certain direction that you felt the movement?
Yeah. So I was literally felt like I was moving in the direction of the park. That's interesting. I've never thought about that.
Because I think I can't remember if we went into it on your episode, but my second out of body experience, it felt like I got shot out of a cannon too,
Right.
but it was feet forwards, and it felt like I
Okay.
was on a slip and slide because I could feel my sheets sliding under my fingers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
yeah, that
remember you saying
same
that.
sense of movement, like extreme movement, just
Yeah. I don't
yeah.
even remember because of the chaos of the motion. It's just like, "Oh
Mm.
my god, what is going on?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's intense when I don't know how to describe that to anyone besides, yeah, it's just shot out of a cannon, like
Yeah.
0 to 100 and nothing. It was crazy.
But I appreciate that you asked the question because I hadn't really thought about that. I knew I was in my bed, but the direction of the motion that I felt was towards the park.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's interesting. The other thing that's interesting too is shortly after that, I told this experience to a friend who had been to the Monroe Institute. And he was like, "You know what they call it when you're like with a group of people at the Monroe Institute and you meet up in this consciousness space, like in your meditations and whatnot. They call it going to the park."
Oh,
And I
yeah,
was
that
like,
makes sense.
"Oh my god." So I feel like this experience for me was curated, and it was curated for specific reasons. Some of them I feel like I still don't know, but one of them was to get me interested in the Monroe Institute. So after that, that's when I really felt like, okay, I want to go to the Monroe Institute really, really badly. I
Yeah,
have to go there.
dude, I wanna go so bad. I wanted to go during the Bledsoe event and everything, but I just couldn't make it happen, but yeah, yeah, I'd love to hear, how was it for you? You got to go with a group of really amazing people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So this was Ryan Bledsoe's event that he
Yes.
put together at the Monroe Institute in May of 2025. And again, this is another thing where it's like, how do you put these things into words? I can tell you some of the things that happen that are wild, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of the spiritual implications for me. Um, but we got there, and just to be in that space, we got to be on the top of Robert's Mountain in Robert Monroe's house, just hanging out in his living room and kitchen was incredible. And then for anyone who doesn't know, at the Monroe Institute, you listen to binaural beats. Uh, in your room, you have what's called a check unit, and it's like this little comfortable bed inside a closet. And you pull the curtains closed, put on your headphones, listen to the binaural beats, and do, the meditations are approximately half hour, 45 minutes. And you've done the focus levels. You're familiar with them.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're legit. I got them off of Reddit a couple years ago, but I've also gone to, there was someone local and down in Denver who was doing like gateway meditations actually. So she partnered with the Monroe Institute and was doing weekly meditations at the library. So I went there and did that a couple weeks, and they were the same exact ones I was
Mm,
using. So I think they're legit. But yeah, I've gone through all the way through to Focus 27, I believe.
okay.
So yeah,
Well, so that technology really helps facilitate these
yes.
different states of consciousness. And so there are different levels, different tones that they use. And then it's basically an exploration, right? You go in and you just experience these different states of consciousness. And because I had out of body experience prior, that's what I thought I was going to go and experience.
Mm, gotcha.
But that's not actually what happened. I didn't have any out of body experiences there. What I did get was premonitions mostly. And
Okay.
so I would start seeing things or experiencing things in my meditation. And then later that day or a day or a couple days or months later, these things would start to happen. And it really makes you question time and what time is. Um, one of the big things that happened for me that was a real wow moment was I was in Focus 15, and for a while I'm not experiencing anything. It's just like blackness. And then, sometimes color patterns will emerge, or y- light, you'll see light and it might turn into something. But the whole thing for me is to just go with it. Just experience, be open minded, and experience whatever you're meant to experience. And so in Focus 15, I get the image out of the blackness. It's like a man and a woman, but I'm just seeing this vague outline of them.
Hmm.
And I hear the man say to the woman, "Oh, I have to remember to." And then there's a pause, and I hear the word vehicle. And I was like, oh my God, that was so like so real out of the
Mhm.
blue, right? Out of nothing, this thing that I experienced. And I asked myself, I'm like, can I see that again? And it replays the man
Oh,
and the woman.
nice.
And I also realized that behind them, it's like they're in a music studio because I kind of see buttons and dials
Mm.
behind them. But again, the man says to the woman, I have to remember to, and then there's a pause and the word vehicle. And I'm really excited then because like it replayed.
Yeah.
How strange is that?
Yeah.
The same thing twice, so vivid. And so about 5 minutes right after that, nothing, back to blackness. That just like this, it's this thing that pops in and then it's gone. But about 5 minutes later, I get the image of a child's bike. There's actually two bikes, and they were lying on their side in front of the door of the Monroe Institute. And one bike had training wheels on it. The whole thing when you're in these states is to not question it because your left side rational mind just wants to jump in and like figure out what the hell is going on. But you just have to lean into this right brain intuitive side and just whatever you can remember at the end of the meditation, just write it down, as crazy as it is. So, yeah, I get the image of these bikes. I write that down. But then after the meditation, it occurs to me that the man and the woman might be our trainers. Arky and Darren were our trainers at the Monroe Institute. So I wanted to quickly go back to the meeting room because after every meditation, you go back to this meeting room as a group and you all discuss what you experienced. So I wanted to ask them if they were in the control room where they play the binaural beats and talk to us while we're in the rooms. And so Arky's there and I'm the first one in. I'm like, Arky, were you and Darren in the control room? And he says, yeah. I said, did you say to her that you have to do something involving a vehicle? And he looks at me and he smiles and he's like, yeah, but you're not supposed to know about that. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I don't know if he's like putting me on. Did that really happen?
Mm.
So I sit back in the seat or I go to the seat to sit down and I'm just processing this, right? And everyone shares experiences. And then we're going on to the next lesson for the next focus level. And Arky turns on the television, which is behind him where it gives instruction. And there's a picture of a child's bike laying on its side with training wheels. And dude, I was like, what
Yeah.
the hell? This
Yeah.
is a thing that's happening in your mind, right? This is
Mhm.
like a personal thing, but then there's this outside validation. And again, it's like, what do you do with that? But I got really excited and I leaned into that excitement for each of the meditations. And so stuff like that was happening in throughout all of the meditation. I was getting these wild premonitions.